Alright, welcome back to the channel. Alright, today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 lists. So I won't be putting these in any order. I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So before we get started, I'd like to shout out to a fellow YouTuber, subscriber, follower, Fit to Play Game. This is for you. So let's get started. First off, favorite RPG of all time. I got, for me, it'll be Final Fantasy X or Final Fantasy X. So, for me, this is my favorite of all time. So, when I first got the PlayStation 2, well, it wasn't mine, but my older brother did, but it was for the family. So I really enjoyed this series more than Final Fantasy 7. I guess, I think for me, for the protagonism to have more characteristic, personality, emotional was more important for me. So that's why I like Tidus a lot better than Cloud. So I'm probably one of the few out there that prefer Final Fantasy X over Final Fantasy 7. So yeah, great game. Has a great mechanic, a turn-based. Not as good as Final Fantasy 7, but it's a good mechanic. I won't spoil it, but you should check it out. They have a remaster for the PS3 and PS4 as well, but I just really prefer the original way how I played it on a CRT. So I play my PS2 on my CRT, which is I had recently. Really great game. I always go back and play this game, so that's why I really enjoy it. My favorite of all time. So yeah. All right. Next up, supposedly Fit to Play Game actually have next up is his favorite all-time strategy, but I feel like I didn't really have any strategy game that I have like at all time, because I didn't really grow up playing strategy game. Actually, I put in Digimon World 1, the very first Digimon World, which is it's kind of like open world, but more like adventure simulation. Like you can raise your Digimon like your pet, and they can go into battle, and it does have a storyline whatsoever as well. So this is my childhood game where I grew up playing the most. My favorite, one of my favorite games of all time. So I decided to go with adventure simulation instead of strategy. So yeah, it's a really good game. I love Digimon. Probably just same amount as Pokemon as well. I did grow up with a lot of Pokemon game as well. But alright, next up, survival horror. So for the survival horror, just like everybody else, I go with the Resident Evil series. As you can see here, I got Resident Evil 3. I got the first Resident Evil on the PlayStation. Of course, I played it all the Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 on the PlayStation. And then they had a Resident Evil 2 remake on a PS4. Also got a really good game as well. Really good remake. But for me, the best survival horror of all time, and my favorite, is Resident Evil 5. Which is because you can co-op, play with another player, or play online. So still, to me, it's have a lot of nostalgia. Pretty good. I still go back and play this game from time to time, along with all the other original Resident Evil on the PlayStation. But this one just really different, so it was unique at the time. Now, I didn't grow up having a PlayStation 3, but later on, maybe about 5-10 years later, I was able to get the PlayStation 3. But I played it at some of my friends' house, and this is the, to me, it was the best survival horror game. So, next up. So, Next category is sport. So my favorite sport game, I would have to say the Mario series, like Mario Party, Mario Baseball, Mario Soccer, Striker. But for me, it's gonna have to be Mario Tennis because I guess to me it's just more fun than a normal sport game, and I guess I could really relate to Mario Tennis because I like playing tennis in college, so it really gave me a good vibe playing sport game. But that's pretty much it. I don't really have a favorite sport game, but if it's like a Mario sport game, I would definitely play it because whether it's Mario Kart, Mario Baseball, or Mario Tennis, then I definitely will play it. Alright, so next up we got indie game. So my favorite indie game of all time has to be SteamWorld. I think it's actually called SteamWorld Dig. This is I think it's the first one or the second in the series. This is on the PS Vita. So I first played it on the PS Vita, but I believe if you bought it from the PS Vita, you could play on a PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4. If you purchase on the Vita, you can also download it on the PlayStation 3, PlayStation TV, PlayStation 4. Not too sure, but this is a very underrated series. Not a lot of people talk about it. There's I think there's like there's 4 episodes in the series now. So I believe this is the first one. Then there's SteamWorld Heist, and then there's also SteamWorld Dig 2, and then there's a new one, SteamWorld Quest. So I would like to buy a collection someday if they actually make it. I believe they have like a collection of 2 of the first series, SteamWorld Dig and SteamWorld Heist on the Wii U and another platform. Maybe they have it on Steam as well. But I originally played on the PS Vita. Also, the PS Vita is one of my all-time favorite handheld games. So I got the game right here. Really good game. What you call it? Underrated series. Nobody really talk about it much. Pretty much, it's kind of slash platforming. It has like a digging mechanic, stuff like that. Pretty good game. There's like boss fight and stuff like that. Alright, so next up, favorite fighting game of all time. This is a good one. So for me, definitely, I think if you guys whoever's been following me or watching me already know what are my favorite game of all time. Of course, I already stream it, I play it all the time, I upload it. And for me, I had to give it to Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the Super Nintendo. Now, because to me this is the best version. Well, maybe because I grew up playing this version, but anyway, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo was the best fighting game for me. I still go back to play it almost every other week or so. I play it on the Street Fighter Anniversary now. Street Fighter Anniversary, where you can play online, fight other player, and it has Street Fighter 1, 2, and 3, and Street Fighter 1, 2, and 3. So it's pretty good. But for me, this original cartridge is for me is the best one because you can do the code to play I think 10 stars, so it's like super fast. And I always go back and play level 7. We call it level 7 because it's full star difficulty, which is the enemy, your opponent is like super strong, and yeah, they have a lot of hit points, so really challenging. For me, Street Fighter 2 Turbo was the best game of all time. Alright, next up, so instead of strategy RPG, I decided to go with Phantasy Star Online, which is an action RPG. So not a lot of people talk about this game, but to me it was the best game of all time for me. It's the first time I actually play online with other player. So yeah, it's really fun. Pretty much it's just like every early 3D action RPG,
if you guys don't
and
know,
you can go
Darth
online.
Vader
And it's made by
is the best
Sega.
weapon in the game.
But you know, the
You
really
can no longer
cool
get
thing
it no
about
more if
this game is
you,
that there is a story, and you can go online,
you
you
can't
do
go
all these
online no more.
quests,
But I
and
believe maybe
it's not like
Olga
open
Pro
world
or
where
something.
like many players could come together.
They
You have to
still
make
drop
like a
it,
room,
but
and
it's
max
much
player,
lower
and one room is only 4 people.
Bazooka
So
basically
you,
just
including
bazooka
3 other
shooting
people,
blows.
that's only, yeah,
hit
you
all
and 3 other
enemy.
people, that's equal to 4.
Um,
And then when you get through the stage, you just fight, you know, a boss, you know, a big giant boss.
but it has
So yeah,
to
and then
where it
the
has
coolest
more
mechanic is where you can find rare items,
more HP,
and then you gotta identify it. So when you identify it, it's possible
Darth
you can
Vader's
get something
pretty cool.
rare.
Look at it.
And when you make a character, you get like a
Yeah,
different
these are
ID,
some of the
like different
rarest
color
weapons.
ID, and
And
then
I actually
it kind of
obtained it
determine
on my account.
what kind of enemy drop different stuff for you. So yeah, it's a very heavily, you know, RPG mechanic built into the game. Now, originally released it on the Sega Dreamcast, and then came to the Xbox, and then the GameCube. But I believe they have a PS2 version, but it's not the same. I think it's called Phantasy Star Universe, which is, I also have it, but I don't have it right now with my hand, but it's in my shelf somewhere. But I really enjoy this one. This is the one I grew up with. The Xbox version. It has the best graphic overall from the Dreamcast and the GameCube. But even though the GameCube is probably the definitive version, but the Xbox version looks better in my opinion. So yeah, this is my favorite RPG, action RPG of all time. Next up, we have Celt game, but I feel like I don't really have a favorite Celt game, so I actually went with SPF, first person shooter. So my favorite first person shooter of all time is Perfect Dark. So I feel like this is you know, one of the first 4-player co-op first person game that I played, you know, growing up, and to me it was the better game than 007. Although most people would rather choose 007 over this. Not really sure why, but Perfect Dark is definitely the better game. I'm not sure about the story-wise, but the story is pretty generic, but the gameplay is definitely better, I would say. But that's just me. Perfect Dark, best first-person shooter of all time. Yeah, you haven't played it, check it out. Actually, I heard Microsoft's making a remake of Perfect Dark. Don't play the 360 version. That version is not as good. It's not as smooth, or it's not that fast, you know. But the N64 is the one I grew up with. But they made a remaster on the Xbox 360, so that one is really good. Definitely say give that one a try. Although I believe it's only digital download, but if you can get it on Rare Replay on the Xbox One, which is where I have it, where I mainly do my recording and play on the Xbox One. Because let me see if I can grab it. Okay. Yeah. So Rare Replay right here. So you can play Perfect Dark, the remaster, on the Rare Replay. But yeah, originally I played it on the N64, so you know, to me it was the best game. It was fun. Alright. So next up, we got open world sandbox of all time. For me, I choose the Shenmue series because it's pretty much was the first open world I have playing or seen. It was originally released on the Dreamcast, Sega Dreamcast. So I didn't really play it too much growing up. I was pretty young, but I played a little bit of Shenmue 1 and 2, but I never beat it. But now I got the PS4 version, so I'm gonna go back and try to beat it. Shenmue 3, which is the one that I already have beat it, and I think it's a great game. A lot of critter, they say it's a pretty bad game, but to me it's a great game, and I think they pretty much still create the game kind of like back in the 90s. They honor the way the gameplay was back in the day. So kudos to Yu Suzuki, the creator of Shenmue, and not just that, he created a lot of games in the Sega series, like I believe the Yakuza and so on. But yeah, this not a lot of people like this series, but to me it was the best series. It has a lot of in-depth story. Now the main character named Ryo Hazuki, his father was killed by this guy, the antagonism Lan Di, which is the main villain, because they're fighting over the Dragon Mirror, Phoenix Mirror. Now, don't ask me, the whole series haven't ended yet, so we're not gonna know more about the main idea of the story yet. But all we know is that the main character is seeking revenge for his father that was killed by the antagonism. So, great story. All right, and last, I wanted to choose platforming. So for me, it was like really hard to choose my favorite platformer of all time, because I really like Mario game and Sonic game. Like Mario 64 was really good too, and as well as Super Mario Brother and Mario All Star. But as I grown up, I didn't really own a Sega Genesis until I got older now. Then I pretty much took a chance to get a Sega Genesis and went back and played some Sonic game. So I did play Sonic 2 when I was a kid. There's always like a kid in the neighborhood that had a Sega Genesis, and I played Sonic 2 back in the day, and I wasn't really good at it, so I didn't really like it as much. But now that I got older and I went back to replay, I realized I really enjoy Sonic much more than Mario World, all the Mario series. So, I figured out that I like Sonic much more. If back in the day, if I have a Sega Genesis, I would have been like that Sega kid. So, Sega Sonic 2, the Hedgehog, best platforming all time for me. All right, just let me know what you think.